Oh my God, this is going to be the most amazing podcast. In working as a CPA and starting several small businesses on the right, Levi Morehouse, wave your hand. He realized that the back office is a distraction to most entrepreneurs and that they need done-for-you cloud-based accounting and reporting, and he founded Ceterus in 2008. In the years since, Ceterus has grown quickly, raised millions in venture capital, built an automated accounting platform, and most importantly, empowered thousands of entrepreneurs with accounting, reporting, and consulting solutions. More recently, Ceterus has begun to provide their accounting platforms to CPAs and accountants who serve as trusted advisors of small business entrepreneurs themselves. He lives in Charleston, South Carolina with his lovely wife, 5 boys, and a baby daughter. You got to be Catholic or Mormon. Which one is it?
I'm neither. Actually,
I don't even believe you. I didn't want an audit.
When I wrote that, the guy that was looking at it and edited it, he goes, he put that comment at the end. He goes, and he's neither Catholic or Mormon, because that was what he assumed when he met me as well. So
that is hilarious. And then to the left, Jonathan Martin. Any relation to Dean Martin? You got the same hair.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Sure.
We'll go with that. Jonathan Martin has been with Ceterus for nearly a decade, growing sales and developing new revenue streams in a rapidly changing accounting environment. Jonathan's focus is to empower dental-focused CPA firms to improve their client accounting services business with greater automation, accuracy, and white-labeled reporting portal, which includes real-time dental P&L benchmarks and industry insights. Anybody who's listened to this show more than, I don't care if they've never listened to it, they know. I mean, by the way, my 30-year anniversary of lecturing on the road, I've been on tour since August 4th, 1990. I'm coming up on 30 years. So, and that's why I call my podcast Dentistry Uncensored, because if you ever see me live, ever see my low, I'm not exactly politically correct, because I trust that you want to hear exactly what I believe. They don't want to hear some guy in a suit and tie lying to them. And I have said for 30 years, and that, you know, I've been to 1,000 dental offices. A dentist will walk out of a room, he'll just finish a hygiene check, and I'll say, how long has that hygienist been with you? 10 years. And what'd she just do? Cleaning exam bite wings. Great. Did you net $5.10 after taxes, or did you lose $14? I have still not met anybody who knows except for the DSOs. And the reason they've taken, I'm in Arizona, of all the 50 states, this is ground zero for DSOs. 18% of all the dentists in Arizona work for DSO. And if you look at the long tail, the other end, 5 states aren't even at 1%. And it's because our Governor Ducey, did what we were asking for all along, saying, dude, if you're licensed to be a dentist in New Mexico, how come when you cross an invisible line in the sand, you're no longer licensed? It's just a mobster union protecting trade. And they also do it, they also abuse the poor, because, you know, I practice across the street from Guadalupe Indian Reservation. It's 5,000 American Guadalupe Indians and 20,000 people that came from Mexico. I guess you can call them illegal, because since we stole the land from them, I think we stole their citizenship when we stole the land, so they're technically illegal based on a war. And some there's not one dentist in there. And every couple of years, some dentist from Mexico will come up there and get an apartment or a house and set up a dental office, start doing dentistry. And what does the Arizona board do? Oh, they call the mob, and the police come out and they arrest them and kidnap them, put them in a cage, deport them. Oh, because he was treating poor people who didn't even go to the dentist. And it's all done in the name of they're trying to protect us. So what they're saying is that zero dentistry is better than any form of dentistry. And what they're saying is someone who doesn't know a word of English, I wouldn't want to go to a dentist in Iran and not speak Farsi. If I was in Iran and my tooth broke, I would find a dentist from Dental Town that spoke English, because you're already scared of the dentist. So it's all crazy, but back to this accounting thing is I was on, when I got out of school in 87, Kodak was the big company. They owned SoftDent. I used it for 30 years, but they were all closed proprietary systems, and Open Dental came along. And Open Dental is just open. So tons of dentists have switched. I mean, a lot. I mean, and I can prove this because since I own a dental media company, Dental Town Magazine website, which sells advertising, They're the only ones that don't even advertise because they're growing too fast. They can't onboard enough programmers in Oregon. So all the other systems that I cannot stand and cost me a lot of money and loss of advertising, because I always say I can't stand them, but that's truth and honesty. Like Dentrix and Eaglesoft. When a dentist tells me he likes Dentrix, I just think, well, was it a head injury, or are you in grammar school, or tell me about your journey to where the most incompetent management information system you love, and they don't know their numbers. And so I have a thread called Open Dental Accounting, because Open Dental is open, and I just been saying for 30 years, like look at the government. Hey, April 15th, you owe us taxes. Well, how much do I owe you? I have no idea, but if you don't pay the right amount, we'll kidnap you and throw you in jail and put a lien on your house. It's like, I know you're the mob, but can't you at least try to help me? So I see Open Dental, and all the dentists are on the TurboTax and QuickBooks Pro, and I'm like, my gosh, the dentist, he has all of his accounting in Quicken, he has all of his practice management in Open Dental. And it's like being completely schizophrenic. And then Levi hit a nail on the head. We didn't go to dental school for 8 years to be CPAs. We went to dental school so when you walk in holding your face, it's like, I can fix that. And none of the dentists know their numbers. Even the dentists who think they know their numbers, I know their numbers. But DSOs, their card was, take Stephen Thorne. He bought the rights to a big accounting practice management software system, said, we just want that as a base. We're never going to sell it, do anything. But then I'm going to hire my own programmers to do what you guys are doing and put a layer on there. And that's why he owns 500 dental offices and not even a dentist. And that's what, and then Aspen and Heartland uses Dentrix, but they have the enterprise system and they have a bunch of they got 1,000 offices. But I'm just worried about my homie, the individual, the owner-operated dentist. He can barely figure out how to do a root canal. She might not have ever placed her first implant. So the accounting, that's just crazy. Am I insane, or is this how you see the market?
That is exactly how we see the market. And it goes for entrepreneurs of all industries, but dentalpreneurs absolutely fit that bill, where the small business entrepreneur is ill-equipped to compete with the large corporate entrepreneur the way technology is going. They can't invest in their own technology. And just like you mentioned, you can't build your own system. So what we're looking to do in one area of business is provide a tool that has the same level of quality, sophistication, and ultimately investment to give that small single 2-unit, 2-practice, 3-practice owner the exact same tools that the large DSOs and the big corporate, players have at their disposal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our goal, is to empower that small business dentalpreneur.
And the other rant I've been on for 30 years, I've been on a lot of rants. I'm starting to turn into like Oscar the Grouch. I never forget watching the story of Sesame Street, and Oscar the Grouch was one of the most popular characters. And they asked the guy, why is a man living in a trash can so popular? And they go, that's your grandpa. He's sitting there barking at the TV, and he's all pissed off at the world, and ever since I heard that, sometimes I'll be talking to some dentist, and I'm like, come on, your 3-year-old granddaughter's standing over there, and she's looking at you like, is Grandpa mad? I'll never forget one time I was at church, and one of the Eric was like 2, and it was completely silent at the end of the sermon, and Eric said, everybody in the church could hear it. He said, God's mad. And everybody's like, okay. So the other thing I've been lecturing on forever is not only do they not know their numbers, their CPA was a referral from the church. Like out here, they'll say, well, I was at Temple and they, this guy's part of our church and he's a great guy. I'll go, okay, well, does he know the difference between an implant and a crown? I mean, he's a good guy, but I've been saying you got to get with a CPA specialist, someone that only does dentistry, because having all the numbers is nice. That's science, but there's also an art to it, because a lot of this is above our comprehension. If knowing all the data could tell you all the answers, then everybody on Match.com would be married tonight. Okay, there's a little more to the equation than just a number. So we have the science and the art and the science. And I always say I always say, you get a CPA, because a lot of times that only does dentistry, and they'll say, I don't really know exactly why, but I know every dentist in this state who did this, here's what happened. And that just is what it is. And all my dental CPA friends are telling me that they're extremely interested in this. And everybody I talked to said, I'm either checking it out, I'm either demoing it, I'm either using it, or I'm planning to. I didn't hear anyone, not one dental CPA. And on my dental email CPA list, it's 100 of them. And they're all like, yeah, get them on. I want to hear this podcast. So, Jonathan, you haven't said a word. Are you shy and humble, or are you just...
I'll own being humble to some degree, but I'm not shy.
So how do you see this, Jonathan?
I think the way you just laid out kind of the industry is exactly right. We built the entire business around focusing on a niche and an industry focus. And we've found that with dental, everything you said is absolutely correct. When a CPA firm is focused on dental practices where they have 30 or 300 or 1,000 dentists, the dentalpreneur, which is a great word, by the way, is going to benefit tremendously from having that concentration within that firm. And so that we make a very big push to support the CPA firms that have that focus. Because when they have an industry focus, they know what they're talking about. They can tell you that overhead expenses should be 55%, not 70%. And that's really important, as opposed to the guy that you mentioned who's just the friend of the church who just does bookkeeping for anything and everybody. So that's correct. And we found that to be true and have been running with that for quite a few years. And
there are, when you look at dental CPA associations, what's even neat about it is there's two, here, let me pull this up. I'll tell you why it's so important. By the way, I know a dentist, and he was telling me one time his sister graduated as a CPA, and this is back 10 years ago, and he said, yeah, she doesn't know what kind of CPA she wants to do. And I said, well, have her specialize and have her go into dentistry. Sure. And she did, and it was a really smart decision. I mean, specialist, the average dental specialist makes $320. The average general dentist makes $197. You see how specialization, I mean, Adam Smith even talked about this in The Wealth of Nations, 1776. But the reason, what you just said about overhead, here's 4 dentists that make $25,000 a month. Well, if you have 80% overhead, which 20% of the practices do, you have to do $125,000 to dentistry to make $25,000. If you have 65% overhead, which is what the American Dental Association and great statistics has shown year after year, the average dentist has 65% overhead. Just think of 2/3. To make that 25, you got to do $71,000 dentistry. If you had 50% overhead, obviously you only need $50,000 dentistry to make 25. I'd rather just think of the procedure you hate doing the most. For me, it's a quadrant of MOD composites. It's an hour of just mowing the lawn, loading the dishwasher, cleaning out the garage. I don't want to do $50,000 worth of MOD composites to make 25. I mean, I don't want to do $125,000 at 80% overhead and net 25. I'd rather do $50,000 at 50% overhead to make 25. But these CPA firms, they finally took off. And we have now the Academy of Dental CPAs at www.adcpa.org. I think they have 8,000. You have the Institute of Dental CPAs, www.indcpa, IN for Institute, D, Dental CPA.org. I think they have about 2,000. And I'm not going to recommend either one of them because it depends on the guy up the street. The guy up the street in your small town of Beeville, Texas, you might really have chemistry with one of those two. And then you got a lot of smaller ones, like Kane Water Associate. But the bottom line, gentlemen, ladies, you have no idea what your overhead is. You have no idea what your numbers are. And you believe all these things that are disconnected from math. And only a full-time dental CPA. So I want you first... tell them what you're doing. I mean, tell them, I'll shut up and you tell them what you're doing so they understand your value proposition.
Sure. So I'll jump in and take that one, but Jonathan will continue to talk, Howard. I promise. He's when we looked at the dental market and we interacted with dentalpreneurs, we realized the value in that industry specialized CPA. And we also realized that those industry specialized CPAs don't have the automation technology at their fingertips, and they don't have the dental specific benchmarked reporting at their fingertips. So to provide the benchmarked reporting you're talking about, they're doing a whole lot of spreadsheet work every single month, which is error prone, and it takes a whole lot of human effort And that effort, we want their really well-trained, knowledgeable CPAs to spend that time talking and consulting with the dentist, not putting a spreadsheet together, aggregating all kinds of data from various QuickBooks files. So what our platform does, in the case of dental, we work purely behind the dental CPA firm that has a specialization. We provide two things. It's automation of the inputs. So we take the bookkeeping time off of that CPA firm's plate by automating it using dental specific rules. So a standardized chart of accounts for dental. I've heard you talk about that on past podcasts, Howard. It's mind blowing how many industries don't have that. That's something that our firms all have. They specialize in this. They know that's right. We help them make sure it's always in place and always code activity consistently across every single dental practice they work with the same way. So we automate the inflows of data into QuickBooks Online. So we are working around QuickBooks Online so they can still use the accounting system that the firm and the dentist are very comfortable with. The second thing we do is we provide our dental specific reporting platform. It's a web application as well as a mobile application. Beautiful, modern, cutting edge. And again, it's white labeled for the firm. So the dentist, your firm, is now taking their special sauce, but using our automation and our reporting that they just couldn't go build on their own, and putting it in the hands of the dental entrepreneur that they're working with, giving them all the access to the reporting and the automation that frees up their time to spend more time consulting with the dentist. So our really big point here is that at the end of the day, just like every other industry with entrepreneurs, of which we work in several, the dentist needs quality financial consultation from an accountant, from a CPA who has expertise in that industry. And that professional can't spend all their time crunching data and building spreadsheets. They need to spend that time talking and consulting with that client, and they need to use the right technology to do so. So we provide the accountant that technology to ultimately empower the dentist.
Okay, now I'm just going to go through. I was a dentist and got an MBA, and I know my homies. I mean, I've been a dentist 30 years. You said spreadsheets 3 times. You might as well just said Martian aliens. Tell them what a spreadsheet is.
So tell them what a spreadsheet is, did you say, Howard?
Yeah.
So a spreadsheet is, like, of all the wonders that God created, a spreadsheet is up near the top of the list, Howard. So we love spreadsheets around here, but most people don't. So there's something wrong with Jonathan and I, but that's kind of the world we're in. A spreadsheet is a really fancy calculator that can do all kinds of complex calculations. You can put a lot of different data sources in it and generate a lot of good information. So to get the kind of metrics and key performance indicators, oftentimes you would want for your dental practice, your CPA is most likely using an accounting system, putting that data into a spreadsheet, and running some calculations to provide you with the insights and analytics that they're working with for you.
So you're talking Excel. Is it mostly always Excel?
Almost always Excel, yes.
So a spreadsheet is an electronic document in which data is arranged in rows and columns and grids and can be manipulated and used in calculations. And then the next thing you said was genius, that dentistry doesn't even have a specific chart of accounts. And the ADA doesn't even provide one. And I want you to post yours on that thread, Open Dental Accounting on Dentaltown. And what that means is, whenever you're listening to a dentist at the study club, you believe him because you trust him and he's your friend. And he is trustworthy in your friend, but he doesn't know anything he's talking about. Like, he'll say, well, my overhead's 50%. First of all, he doesn't even know what his overhead is. Secondly, he may be an old guy like me who paid off his land and building, so his overhead's lower because he doesn't pay anything. And you're over here and you just bought your land and building with a 30-year mortgage, so you wonder why your overhead's higher, when technically, if you got a land and building paid off, well, if I sold that land and building and put it in a 30-year bond, that's called your cost of capital. You just can't say, well, I work in a free asset and it doesn't show up on any chart of accounts. So dentistry needs a specific chart of accounts. Where are we at with that right now?
So we're getting close. So like I said, we work with nearly a dozen firms that specialize in dentistry. And I would say, in looking at the charts and they each have a standardized chart of accounts within their firm. And the consistency between those firms' charts of accounts is very close. So where we try to come in is we standardize a level beyond that, where we will map to a dental standard, so all of the firms can see the benchmarks across all of the dental practices we work. So
can you post that on that thread or maybe write an article on that? Is the reason they're not completely as chart of account, for my international viewers, I mean, like Denmark, I mean, it's one country, but the United States isn't one country. It's 50 states all flying under one flag. So is the variances in the chart of accounts more to do with all the state laws and regulation and taxation?
So I think it's, what we used to run into was each business owner set up their own QuickBooks file, and the accountant just ran with that and dealt with it. In the cases now, the firms have come in sometime in the last decade, in most cases, and said, I don't want to run with what you've done. I focus on dental, and I'm going to have a dental chart of accounts. But the partner at firm A didn't talk to the partner at firm B. So when they developed their own standardized chart of accounts, because the ADA hasn't provided, here's what it should be, they've both kind of built it on their own, and they're close. They're good. They're relevant. They provide the right kind of data, but they're not 100% aligned. And that's where, so there hasn't been a central body to take some of these really good firms that specialize and have a large concentration of dental and matched up to standardization. So it's not as much about state laws and regulations as it is about the firms going from everybody does stuff their own way to all my dentists do things the same way, but we haven't gotten yet to all the dentists across all the firms do. We bring some level of standardization between the various firms' charts of accounts when they work on our platform.
But there's also another layer to that I think kind of gets lost when you actually are talking about, because your target audience here is the dentist, right? And what we see every time firm to firm is the firm will attempt to start with a standardized chart of accounts, so what Levi was saying, but every single time there's going to be a nuance where a dentist will say, well, I don't really know this or that about accounting, but here's what I want to see on my P&L specifically for my practice. And the firms that kind of bend to that and allow them to add that account or add that sub account, that's when they start to get away from that universal COA or chart of accounts that we like to see. And so what we've actually done is a handful of the firms we've partnered with have been really successful when they go back to their clients and they say, hey, I know for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been sort of doing what you wanted in the way we track this or track that account. Every quarter, you want to add this account to the general ledger. The firms that go back to their clients and say, listen, best practice here is for us to streamline the chart of accounts. You're going to do your accounting. You're going to view your P&L the same way that everybody else does in the firm. Therefore, we're going to be able to benchmark you against our 300 or 400 dentists. That's when the light bulb goes off and the dental CPAs go, oh, we should have done this 7 years ago. And then everybody benefits. The dentist benefits, the CPA benefits, our automation benefits. It's a win-win. So I can't stress enough how important that is that when we see that happen, it's fantastic.
So what you just said is that dentists' natural intelligence in accounting is no match for artificial intelligence.
I won't say that.
Can I quote you on that with your picture?
You can.
And your name and address? Because that's dentists' problem. They have a humility issue. I mean, when you get A's in math, you apply that to physics, and then applied physics is chemistry, applied chemistry is biology, and the biological application we went into was dentistry. They've been told they're the smartest guy in the class since the 6th grade. So then, I can do anything. I know everything about marketing and advertising and accounting. It's like, no, dude. Yeah. Stay in your lane. You're really smart in dentistry, and you don't know shit about anything else. And you certainly don't know anything about accounting if you can't even tell me after your 1,000th filling if you made $5 or lost 10.
Right.
I mean, they'll tell me, you know what, my hygienist is booked up, a month in advance. I'm thinking about getting another hygienist. I said, well, first, why don't you figure out how many hygienists you would need to declare bankruptcy? This would be a really good thing. And it's like, if you're only making $5 net income on a cleaning exam and x-ray, why would you want another hygienist to net another $5? Why wouldn't you just try to learn how to make $10 off your original one? Why don't you? And here's what's hilarious in dental school. I'm in dental schools, and these dentists, I say, well, what's your long-term goal? I always have, a human as a life unit. Let's just, for easy math, ones and zeros, 100 years. Where do you want to be at the end? 100 years old, you're getting ready to take your dirt nap. Where do you want it to be? And they say, I'd like to have like 4 offices. It's like, what does that even mean? Like 4 offices doing $1 million each. Well, why wouldn't you have one office that does $4 million? I mean, I can give you the names of 100 dentists that do $4 million by themselves in one office. Why would you want 4? So everybody with an MBA wants to grow earnings. Dentists just want to grow buildings and operatories and add more hygienists and add all this stuff. And it's like, dude, I can't buy a cup of coffee with your new hygienist. In fact, I'm going to lose a couple Starbucks every hour that she works. So grow earnings. But back to that artificial intelligence quote you said, which was genius. Dentist natural intelligence and accounting is no match for artificial intelligence, because you're kind of getting this all set up when AI and machine learning's coming to age. Do you have your eyes on AI and machine learning, and is this going to be a big thing in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, no, we absolutely do. We've got a data scientist on the team as part of our engineering group, and we're working on AI machine learning right now as we speak. A lot of the automation we do is programmed automation, which goes a long ways in an industry like dentistry. But as you look at taking that and truly taking it to the next level, AI and machine learning will absolutely be a huge part of that. A decade from now, it will be pervasive through all of accounting. I don't know if that's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years till it really starts to chew in, but we're absolutely investing heavily there as we move towards the future. It will be a really important part of things.
Well, AI started in, I think it was an IBM lab. It was like 1950. So a lot of people think it's brand new. No, it's 70 years old. And I can tell you by being an old man, everything takes so much longer than you thought it would take when you were in school. And so I'm going to hold you to the fire. Now, before I ask these questions, the old people know this, but the young kids don't. If you're coming out of dental school, it's called channel conflict. If I ask him a question and it's going to piss off all of his customers, I mean, obviously it's not intelligent for him to answer. So if he has a channel conflict, as you just say, I have no channel conflict issues because I'm socially retarded in 9 different countries. But you work with all these CPAs, and she just graduated, and she's opening up her own office. Would you recommend QuickBooks Pro, Quicken Online, Peachtree Accounting? Microsoft bought Great Plains Accounting, so it's called Microsoft GP. And then the Fortune 500 all uses the one out of Germany. What's the big dog out of Germany called?
SAP.
SAP. What's a basic SAP accounting software cost? $1 million?
Yeah, I mean, it's level. It's an unnecessary expense for a CPA firm in our perspective, because the way we do. And let me piggyback off of what Levi was saying too. I think the AI and the machine learning and the engine, the rules, everything that we've built here at Ceterus and we continue to grow is not to displace that accountant working at that CPA firm. Our goal is to make it so that accountant can actually do advisory and consulting. That's the biggest takeaway from
an application.
That's
not
right.
the data, an application to help you.
Yeah, we want to empower that accountant sitting behind the computer at Kane Waters, at WSW, at Aprio, and be able to get on the phone with the client and talk about everything that's going on and be able to have that conversation with them about, hey, we noticed that your supplies were 2% higher than they were last quarter. We noticed that your lab fees were 5% higher than the industry eye. Like, let's analyze that. Let's spend time talking about that and talking about your cash flow instead of having these staff accountants doing bookkeeping and data entry all day long. So
you just had to say cash flow. The spreadsheet wasn't enough. Now you just told my homie cash flow. So there's 3 accounting statements. The only one dentists know is a statement of income. You call it a P&L, and it's only designed for a third-party tax collector, the IRS. If you're publicly traded, the SEC. It has nothing to do with managerial accounting. That's where you look at a statement of cash flow. Dentists who have used the same CPA for 20 years have never even been given one statement of cash flow. And then the other one you need to know about is a balance sheet. That's your asset equals to balance with your liabilities plus equity you have in it, and you need to have that updated every time you get a divorce. And then they'll divide that by 2, and you'll need to pay. So tell them they don't know what cash flow is. So now you have to go explain that.
Sure. You want to take it? You want me to take it?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So the way that we look at cash flow is not what you refer to as a statement of cash flow, which is very important. It's very critical, and that's provided. That's something we can provide, and the CPA firms often do. When we talk about cash flow, we just are talking about the realistic projection of collections coming in, the breakdown of collections, and the breakdown of expenses going out the door. We don't need to provide that. I mean, they'll have financial statements and a P&S or P&L and an income statement, all the things that we talked about. But at the end of the day, they just need to know in 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, what's going to be left over. If I collect X and I spend Y, how much am I going to have left over? And that's it. That's the bottom line. And so being able to surface that for them every day is what we do as part of our platform. So they, on a daily basis, they can see exactly what that projection should look like. And that in turn empowers a CPA firm to not have to do that. They don't have to calculate that on a spreadsheet manually every day, every week, every month. It's just there at their fingertips, to what Levi was saying earlier. So the client, the dentist, has that in their mobile app online every day, so they know exactly what they can expect in the next month. And that's powerful stuff, Howard.
Yeah, so to that point, Howard, just to clarify, we provide a cash flow statement, a statement of cash flows, and that's an automated report that, again, your accountant doesn't even have to assemble it. If the bookkeeping's done, that's just one of the reports on the platform available to the CPA. Where I think we take that and we leverage it. We always want to take, accounting is looking backwards, in my opinion, and we want to try to leverage that backwards look and project forward and forecast. So one of the really cool functions within the platform, again, no math, no spreadsheets needed on the CPA's front, is a cash flow forecast based off of looking backwards at cash flows and then projecting it forward. I will say COVID has put a dent in our algorithm. It's kind of hard to project cash flows when there's shutdowns and there's things of that effect. You can certainly toggle it, and that's where that consultation is important. But when there's relatively normalcy, if you look back at the last decade, we have a pretty phenomenal tool to project the office's cash flow as you look to the future, really helping a dentist understand, I need to put money in, do I need to distribute some money? And again, ultimately arming their CPA with the tools to give them really high value consultancy.
Okay, let me. I gotta put this in English. You guys are talking over their head.
We apologize.
This is the way I explain it to dental students. If you're still in dental kindergarten, here's my dental grammar school explanation. 23,000 businesses went bankrupt last year. I think the lowest in U.S. history since I graduated from high school in 1980 was 22,780 businesses, and the highest was 82,446. But of those bankruptcies, it blows my mind that half of them that go bankrupt are profitable businesses that ran out of cash. And what that means is this. Let's say that it costs you $1 a month to run your dental office. So 3 months would be $3. It costs $1 for January, February, March. I do dentistry on Jonathan, and it costs $1, but he says, I can't pay you for 90 days. Well, I need $3 to stay alive for him to give me $1. I don't have $3, so I go bankrupt. But you look at all the accountants and they say, oh, when the account receivables, Jonathan's going to pay. Well, he's gonna doesn't pay the bill. So what happens is very profitable businesses run out of cash, because if you go to McDonald's, I'm a health food fanatic, so I always get a Big Mac, fry, a Coke, and they'll say, that's $3. And a dentist would say, oh, well, just send me a statement and bill me and I'll pay you. And the 16-year-old says, dude, give me $3 now or you're not getting a hamburger. So McDonald's, they take order, they take money, they give you hamburger. Dentist takes order, gives you hamburger, and then begs insurance companies to pay. And so the number one overhead that everybody talks about isn't really the number one overhead. Like they'll say the number one overhead is labor, 25%, lab, 7 to 9 to 10, supplies 5 to 6%. That's not even in the ballpark. The number one overhead is when I got out of school in 1987, I charged $1,000 for the crown, and Delta Dental pay me. They just said, well, here's our deal. We'll pay you 100% of your fee of cleaning, exam, and x-rays, 80% of your fee for fillings and root canals, and 50% for crowns, dentures, partials. So I would bill $1,000 for a crown, and Delta would give me $500, and they'd pay in a week or two. They'd pay, and most of us all pay our bills monthly. Well, that changed over the years. They said, you know what? Everybody's got a different fee. We're just going to pay you. But they slid in that it's no longer $1,000. Now it's $650. So 95% of the dentists are on Delta, and the overhead, the fee reduction from I charge $1,000 for a crown, but they're only going to pay me $650 is 35%. So your number one overhead is 35%. Your number two overhead is the collection policy. That's why smart businessmen say, hey, we'll give you a cash discount. We'll give you a 5% cash discount you pay today, because I don't have the money to wait 90 days. So between and Warren Buffett told me in 1980 in Omaha, Nebraska, the Oracle Omaha, when he came over and lectured to our business class at Creighton University, he said, avoid two businesses. Don't ever go into a business that's high cost, a lot of infrastructure, a capital-intensive business, and don't ever go into a business where someone else sets your fee. And in 1980, dentistry was good, because they didn't have $150,000 CAD cams, $150,000 lasers, all this expensive crap. It was just an X-ray machine, and you set your own fee. And now I'm at the other end of my journey, and now someone else sets my fees, and it's very capital intensive. And you, my dear dental graduates of the class of 2020 COVID, you're going to go back and practice your mom. Your mom doesn't know her numbers. I could walk in your office, put a gun to your dad's head, and say, tell me, he just did a crown. Tell me how much money he made, or I'm going to shoot him in the foot. And I'd have to shoot him. He just doesn't know. So that's the DSO advantage. What's the DSO disadvantage? They got the numbers down, they got the people wrong, and the people wrong is they have turnover. Dentistry is about trust. I'm selling the invisible. When I check into a hotel, they put a paper slipper on the toilet seat because I didn't see the maid clean it. They put a little cardboard thing above the glass to sell the invisible, that it's the clean glass. They sell the invisible, and you don't know any of this invisible stuff. But anyway, I'm on too many rants now. So so your dentistry are gonna go bankrupt if you don't know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. You have to keep your cash flow, all that kind of stuff like that. So when she opens up her dental office, would you recommend what accounting software?
Yeah, so we would always recommend Quickbooks Online. Essentials Edition will almost always work for a small.
Essentials Edition?
Essentials, yep. It's a slightly cheaper option. They have a plus option from there, and then they actually have an Enterprise Edition from there as well. But the Essentials version is what we would recommend. I cannot state enough, though. I would recommend, even if she can barely afford anything, find a CPA who specializes in dentistry. Maybe just talk to them once a year to have them help with taxes or something, but don't neglect that. Have them at least check on the way you set up QuickBooks if you want to operate it on your own. I'm still always hard pressed to believe any entrepreneur should do their own bookkeeping. The value of their time, practicing their craft, their business, building their team, focusing on their customers is always optimal. But regardless, I would definitely use QuickBooks Online, and either the Essentials Edition would be just fine.
Nice. Nice. And then here's a channel conflict. I'm going to ask you a question which you can't answer, but you work with all these accounting firms, and the market leader, I'd say about half the dentists have Dentrix, and maybe let's say 40% have Dentrix and 25% have EagleSoft. Open Dental, what one would you recommend for a 2020 class of COVID-19?
Sure. No, it's a good question, and honestly, we're not the one to answer that. That I would chat with your CPA to see if they have a strong opinion. We see a ton of Dentrix, obviously. We personally, as we're a step removed from the dentists themselves, we don't get the complaints and the yeses and the nos. So there's market leadership there. But honestly, haven't don't we personally don't have the direct connection to really make a strong recommendation there.
Now, is that political channel conflict where you just don't want to get an ugly letter from Stan Bergman at Dentrix saying, "Hey, don't say where you suck on a podcast," or is that really?
That's really kind of the level of our. I would definitely tell you, Howard, if that was the case, and just give it to you that way. But we honestly, in this case, it's we're doing the financial statements, and we're not getting into that system. Personally, that's kind of more what the CPA themselves are doing. So don't have a strong recommendation there. As we build API integrations with some of these systems, I will have a very strong opinion on how easy they are to work with. Your whole point on open is a huge advantage. As we bring more and more power to the dental CPA and the dentist themselves in our dashboard by providing information from those systems right alongside their financials and the benchmarks that we have today, I'll have a very strong, opinion, at least on how accessible and easy to work with the data is that resides in those systems. So let's follow back up on that in 6 or 9 months.
All right. So then the other thing is our friendly mob. The government. It's just a mob. I mean, they always try to scare you, to shake you down for money, for protection. It's no different than the mafia, so they only want money. They're never trying to help you. I mean, I've seen so many instances like take the Lehman's Day collapse. It was over all these mortgages. They could have, what the government spent on the mortgages, for 25% of that, they could have paid off all the homes. They just could have paid them off. And all those people, instead of losing their home, would have their home paid off. And no, that's not what the government did. They spent 4 times that amount, and then everybody lost their home. I mean, it's the same thing with the war on poverty for Johnson. He built all these government housing projects in the downtown city. He could have bought everybody 40 acres of land and thrown on a double-wide trailer park for that money, and they all would own their own land. The government only has one mission, and that is to control you, to shake you down. And by the way, I seriously think China's going to make a move while America's having their knee down over this, because they just signed a deal with Iran. Our nemesis are China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and the reason so is they're watching America. I mean, you can't control the people. You can't even get them to wear a mask. So any communist party is looking at that like, this democracy is frightening. I mean, you can't even get them to wear a mask. You have to control these people. The only reason I love it when I see people not wearing masks is because it's just scaring the crap out of Beijing. What would going forward on taxation is turbocharged, because these products you're listing are owned by Intuit. So Intuit owns this Quick Input. They also own TurboTax. So do you strongly support TurboTax? I mean, is that part of your automation plan or not really?
No, typically we work with the larger tax products that the CPA firms are using. Oftentimes, Thomson Reuters has one called UltraTax. We see a whole lot of that. There's CCA, there's the larger tax systems that the CPA firms themselves use, where TurboTax is kind of more a do-it-yourself product, mostly geared at the individual. They do have a small business product, but with the complexity of tax and accounting and just the problems we've seen people get into, by all means, doing it yourself is fine if you don't have complexity. But if you have a building, if you have assets, if you're building up a dental office, I would strongly recommend working with a CPA, again, who specializes in dentistry. And there's a good chance your tax savings potential there and or ability to stay compliant and stay out of trouble is going to more than pay for itself. So the systems we use we're kind of agnostic to the tax system. It's more what the firm is using. But UltraTax is one we see a lot of, but that's not something an individual would go buy on their own.
Well, especially, Howard, since your audience are these dentists, right, that are coming out of school, they're young, or they're trying to get a practice going. We've seen far too many times, sadly, where that guy or that lady tries to do their own taxes for the first couple of years. They put themselves in a hole they don't even realize they're doing. And then they come to the CPA firm that we're supporting or working with, and they've got to clean them up and write letters to the IRS, and it can get messy. So I think the message here, to Levi's point, is just don't try to go at it alone, trying to do TurboTax as a dentist. unless it's just super, super simple, it's just not a good idea.
So what you're saying is this is a big chunk of money, and you need a professional to look at this big chunk of money. I mean, this isn't. It's like dentists, when they start wigging out about their overhead, they start putting a lockbox over the thermostat. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I don't care. I mean, I got one lady up there who's going through a menopause, and I got one assistant that weighs 400 pounds, and just leave them alone and work on what matters. But I want to got a couple more questions on that. When I ranted on U.S. bankruptcies, a lot of them, like say 1999 last year was 23,000 in the United States. The highest number between 80 and 2020 was 82,000. Why do you think, you go to McDonald's, you order a Big Mac, fry, and a Coke. What is the Big Mac, fry, and a Coke for the average small business entrepreneur going bankrupt, would you say?
What is the main reasons?
Yeah. What are, I mean, they're young, they're in dental kindergarten, and they've never thought that in a single year 82,000 businesses could go bankrupt. But why would
Sure.
what would you tell a dental student of why small business entrepreneurs go bankrupt?
Yeah, the one stat that has a couple tentacles, and we'll talk about them, is over half of the failed small businesses in this country are related to improper accounting or financial reporting. And that can be a handful of things. First and foremost, you've already been talking about is understanding cash flow, collections, when are you going to get the cash? So it's where a profitable, what should be successful business actually goes bankrupt due to cash flow issues. So again, to really have solid books and records and a consultant that can help you understand that is huge. So the biggest reason within that half of the business failures are not related to a bad business idea or the wrong market. They're related to not understanding your financials and reporting. Others can be fraud. Someone can be stealing from you, ripping you off in some way, where that's kind of a cash flow problem, but it's a different problem.
Okay, before you go to fraud, I want to type that up. Half of these business failures come from the lack of, how would you succinctly say it? The lack of knowing your numbers, or what would you say?
Yep, the lack, either something within your accounting process or lack of understanding your numbers. So those two things combined.
The lack of understanding your numbers, and what was the other thing?
Or something within your accounting process. Oftentimes, what we call an internal control. But say you're getting ripped, your bookkeeper's stealing from you. That maybe isn't a lack of understanding the numbers, but it's a poor control around your accounting system. So between how you're doing your accounting and your understanding of your reporting.
And I just posted yesterday, let me real quick. It was in the news just yesterday. You can't make this stuff up. West Virginia dental office financial coordinator pleads guilty to bank fraud for depositing $120,000 of insurance checks into her bank account and faces up to 30 years in prison. I mean, I post every one that I see come across the internet, and I mean, I post something like this every single month. And
you see such a small percentage because people are embarrassed to report it so often, and then it never gets known. And so often they don't know what's happening, and they never catch that person. So that's a huge reason, within all small business, but dentistry would be just the same. Is businesses that aren't so small, you actually see every single dollar going out, but you're not large enough to have a fully professional team overseeing everything. You're kind of in that in between where there's a lot of exposure to fraud. Again, having a system that does your books all the time and a great CPA partner is a really, really critical.
And the other thing about that is you're exactly right. Dentists don't like dentists. All humans have pride and ego and all that kind of stuff. But the ones that just tell you one-on-one is the worst ones is they're the dentist and their wife runs the front office, and she's not quite sure if she's in this marriage or not. So she's been sending $5,000 a month to a bank in Sydney. And then when she finally realizes several years later, I know one guy, the wife thought about it for 7 years, but by the time she left, she said, "Oh, I don't care about that. I already have $1 million in Sydney. I'm gone. I got a property. And he's like, so I just found out I've been stealing This is my wife. So yeah, embezzlement is huge. And the other red flag on embezzlement is when you got two family members up there. You got the mom at the front desk and her daughter's your assistant. And now all they need is one reason of why, it's called cognitive dissonance. I can't go to church and say I can steal because that's one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal. In fact, they say that commandment twice. They say there's 10 commandments, there's only 6. I mean, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet the neighbor's goods, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not covet the neighbor's wife. I mean, some of these are so obvious they repeat them twice. But my gosh, you're not supposed to steal, you're not supposed to covet the neighbor's goods. So they have to justify that through cognitive dissonance, and they'll say, well, he's a bad guy because they get a reason of why they can do this, and they steal you blind. And they can steal you blind because, dude, you're a dentist. I mean, you know how exciting it is when someone walks in your office all swollen up and you're just like drooling all over your shirt. I mean, it's like a fireman. I mean, you think a house on fire is bad news, but the fireman's grinning when he pulls up to the scene. I mean, that's why they do what they do. And you're so into the root canal, and that's why I love you, because you work with your hands, you try to help people. That's why I love you, but you're just not interested in accounting. From your experience with lots of entrepreneurs, what % of entrepreneurs actually are weird and twisted like you guys and actually love accounting and numbers and stuff? And how many of them would you say are more normal and have no interest in it?
I don't know, Jonathan. You could double check me. I'd say 5% are incredibly into it, like build their own spreadsheets, to go back to that word we defined at the beginning. 10% beyond that actually understand it and pay some attention. So about 15% in total are paying attention. The other 85% just want you to tell them if something's wrong or if they need to change something in their day-to-day to be more profitable and more efficient. So
now listen to how I rephrase this question and look how different it's changed, because the reason owner-operated dental offices are 70%, where just one dentist is working on one patient, and the reason the other 30% is the fastest growing % of the market, this DSO, where you start with an associate, you start with a second location, and a few of them get up to hundreds of thousands of offices. But of the DSOs, what % of the founders of the DSOs are highly interested in knowing every detail of their numbers?
I can't say it unequivocally, but Jonathan, would you say that's 100%? 90%?
I mean, you got to think about a DSO like you think about a private equity group, right? They take it just as seriously. They care about the margins, to your point. They care about the numbers on a daily basis. It's all very critical.
So that's what that's what they got. They got an inherent internal fascination with the numbers. But where they fail is the staff turnover. I mean, the average DSO, the average associate I see only stays at their job for a year. So it takes them about 5 years to get in their own office. So there's about 6,000 graduates a year. So 6,000 a year times 5 years, 30,000. That's the whole pool the DSOs have to work with. They always say, linear thinking. We went from 1% to 10%. Arizona, we're at 18%. In 10 years, half the dentists in Arizona will work for a DSO. Okay, that's a great linear projection, but it's based on an assumption. And when you abbreviate assumption, it's just ass. That's just straight ass thinking. Because when I go meet a dentist 5 years out of school, they've had 5 different jobs. And it doesn't matter if it's a DSO or working for their mom. You know how many dentists can't work with their dad? I mean, they come back there and it's like, I think if I stay here, I'm not going to go home. I'm not going to get invited for Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and Hanukkah. Dentists, lawyers, physicians, they're like herding cats. If you want to have 1,000 million employees, go in the Army or Walmart or Costco, but don't go into a law firm, an accounting firm, and stay away from dentistry, because every single dentist is the smartest person in the room. And if you don't believe me, just ask them. They'll tell you, hey, who's the smartest one in here? All the dentists like, I'm over here, because the teacher told them that since they were 5 years old. So you're saying QuickBooks Online, the Essential Edition's fine. You're saying TurboTax is just a no, but would you want the TurboTax just for the data so that it comes to you electronically in a spreadsheet and then you manipulate it easier, or is that not even?
Nope, we take that data straight from the banks and the financial systems, pull it through the QuickBooks Online, and then we've got whatever we need to push into the tax system. So truly that's all we need.
So, Socrates said that there were 2 emotions, greed and fear. But 1,500 1,500 years later, the biologist said, no, it's all animals are predator or prey. I mean, you're trying to eat the grasshopper while a big lion's trying to eat you, and they're equal emotions. And I think more dentists are motivated by fear than greed. And the biggest fear they have is that bankruptcy. Do you think working with a CPA firm, and that's the takeaway, by the way, on that list where I say open dental accounting firm, can you post your list of dental CPA firms that you work with?
Sure.
Because
Sure.
I'm telling you right now, kids, if you don't find a CPA who practices in dentistry, you've disconnected from reality. So when you come back to me 5 years later, because when you've been lecturing 30 years, you can't stay on a lecture circuit 30 years without repeat business. I mean, people come back every 3 to 5 years. I have several people that have seen me every year, and I don't want to say his name because it might embarrass David Kagan out of Florida, who also has an office in LA. He works half the year on the Florida beach and the other half on the Kansas beach, and his overhead's low because his wife's his hygienist. That's smart thinking. If you marry your hygienist, you don't have to pay her. Figure that out. And if you want an associate, if you're in dental school and you want to have an associate someday, well, marry someone in your class. That's the easiest deal. But what would you say is the if you posted that list of dental CPAs, if I worked with a dental CPA specialist, would I have a greater chance of not getting embezzled, or would that really not matter?
It won't be foolproof, but yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, dentists coming out of school don't know what internal controls really mean, and nor should they, right?
There he goes and uses another word again. That spreadsheet, cash flow, nut job.
That's exactly to the point you made, though, at the beginning of this podcast, is they don't go to school for 8 years so that then they have to go learn all these nuances about accounting. That's why it's so critical that they go hire a CPA that does dentistry. Exactly to your point. If there's one takeaway from this podcast that I think Levi and I would want you to take and want your listeners to take, it's don't go it alone. Don't go hire some random bookkeeper. Hire a CPA firm that focuses on dentistry. All three of us have said it during this podcast, but it's so critically important. And so to your question, absolutely. I couldn't tell you what the percentage is, but I can tell you that using a CPA firm focused on dentistry is absolutely going to put them in a better position to avoid embezzlement, at least a little bit more than if they try to do it themselves. You can't stop all fraud. We've learned that. We all know that, but certainly you got to put yourself in a position to try to prevent it as best you can.
And when you think of internal controls, the list of internal controls, I mean, what would you say the basic ones are? I mean, you think of separation of duties. When you got one girl up front that collects the mail, makes a deposit, pays, when one girl's doing everything, she can steal everything. So internal controls is a lot of just separation of duties. Rant about internal controls.
Yeah, I think at the simplest level for a small office, it's controls on who collects the money and who spends the money. So the same person shouldn't be putting in the payroll information and approving the payroll. In a small office, I think things like that, the dentist actually needs to take a look at. Same would go for the bills. Maybe sign the checks or review all payments over a threshold of something that matters to your office, $500, $2,000, $5,000, just some basic controls. Again, and work with your CPA based on size and scale of your operation. These things will change. And then same with the money's coming in. Separate those duties: opening the mail, depositing the checks, entering the checks into the system, depositing the checks. You want to break those things up between multiple people. In a small office, maybe that's the dentists themselves make the deposits, or do some of those things to separate the duties.
And I just want to tell one thing to the dental grammar school graduates, and that is, my gosh, back in the day when I got an 87, it was just a pegboard, and I signed the checks, and if something out of the deal, they come to me. I had the check, but it was all me. But now it's all digital. I mean, they're inventing a new way to steal from you every day. I mean, I hear dentists saying that the dental assistant, they pay on a credit card, but she made the money go straight to her account. Or, I mean, talk about how technology it seems like it's made it worse. I mean, we're at the phase now where technology has benefited the embezzlers in small business more than the owners as of now, would you say? Is that a fair assessment or not?
That's a good point, Howard. And I think your AI discussion from before is where we will take that technology and actually be able to harness it, and I think do a better job at stopping fraud. But in this transition from a manual world to a digital world, we certainly, there's some exposure there where a savvy criminal, if you will, can actually probably get away with things easier. But what we're starting to develop is the ability to look at those kind of transactions, let the machine curate things that look unusual, and actually surface them up. And in that case, I think as that gets sharpened and honed in, that will actually help catch things. So some of the things that our platform will actually do, and again, it'll provide it to the dentist, it'll provide it to their CPA, is viewing things like expenditures by vendor, and it'll compare you to if you have multiple locations and things like that. So not only, you can't bury something in an account, office supplies can't be a couple thousand too high every month alone. You're also going to see what vendors are we paying, and are we consistently paying them the same amount, or do we have a spike in something? So there's different things you can do with all that digital data to help actually improve fraud detection and prevention. But you're absolutely right. You have to pay attention. The spending on the credit card, if you don't have a platform that's automatically catching it, you need to review those statements. Just skim them. It usually jumps to your attention if there's something on there of any size that shouldn't have been spent. But don't just not look.
And what do you think? Another one is a pre-approval of what do you call that? If it's over a certain amount, you need a what is that called?
In the
pre-approval authorization. But what does everybody call
signature back in the day where you're writing checks? But a lot of times within your bank, if you're issuing payments, even through the automatic payments, you can set a threshold to over X amount requires a second approval. If you have multiple partners, maybe you want both partners to be on that. If not, but you have a trusted office manager, administrative assistant, maybe they're approved up to a threshold, and beyond that, the dentist themselves, jumps on as that second approval.
And in our office, it's anything over, at the dental office, it's anything over 500, and in dental town, it's anything over 1,000. Needs a, I'm trying to think of the form they call it. Is it just a pre-authorization? What do they call it when they say expense control or whatever? But anyway, if you're going to buy something over 500, we have a system and
a requisition. Is that
what do you call that? Purchase.
A requisition form?
A purchaser.
Purchase requisition or a purchase request.
Purchase requisition. I think it's requisition form. But anyway, and then they'll bring that to me, and it's so great because a lot of times I'm vetoing it just because I don't agree this is the solution. And I'm like, okay, and I just tell my staff the same thing, because if somebody knows you, they're not nearly as impressed as knowing someone they've never seen or known, or that lived 100 years ago. And so they know you're a human developer. So I always go with third person and say, okay, if you really want me to buy this infrared lights for COVID-19 in the air, then there's 250,000 dentists on Dental Town. Go show me the thread where a bunch of other, not me, not you, but a bunch of other smart dentists are saying this is a really good idea. And then they'll show me a thread, and I'll say, okay, well, and that's crazy. Remember, on Dental Town, when you start your first thread, you can start a poll. So a lot of dentists say, well, half the dentists think this. And I go, that's amazing. Can you show me the source on that? Oh, I'm just blowing wind out of my rear. I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, get on Dental Town and start a poll, because I start a lot of polls thinking, oh, I know 80% are going to say this. I'll show you one poll this morning that I can't believe how. Well, the one I can't, I'm embarrassed of is, hygienist. They should have the freedom to own their own business. And half of my homies don't think so. Oh, so let me see, Dennis. So you went and got in bed with the mob, got him to pass laws that only dentists from America can practice, and that guy from Mexico, we'll kidnap him, put him in a cage. Did your mom tell you that kidnapping other people was okay? I could have sworn your mother was against kidnapping and putting people in a cage. But you're saying, and so you're an American, you have freedom not to wear a mask, but your hygienist doesn't have the freedom to open her own business? Oh, wow, how mighty it's just crazy, some of the stuff they believe. But, they just believe weird shit. That's why I do my podcast, to make everybody think straight. I don't know if I'm having any success on this. So we talked about separation of duties, expenditures by vendor. That's great because on Dental Town, just Google embezzlement. In fact, I will do that on right now just to tell you. I'll put in embezzlement just in the search bar because remember with Dental Town, it's a searchable index base. It's not like LIFO, last in first out for Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. So I put in embezzlement. And so all 6 million posts are archived, and I pull up 682 threads talking about how I got embezzled. 682 times. And a lot of them are the expenditures by vendor, so supplies. You think, well, I'm just buying everything from Benco. And, well, what is ABC Dental Supplies? Oh, that's your dental assistant's little P.O. box at one of these little mail-a-more places. Yep. And you've been buying $500 to $1,200 worth of shit from there for 10 years. And then another red flag, I know this is inappropriate, we shouldn't say, but this is dentistry uncensored. You have to remember that one of the ways they do game theory is what if I get caught and I've sold $100,000? Well, if I'm sleeping with the dentist and he's married and the divorce will cost $1 million, that's my game theory. And then I asked the dentist, dude, you're like not hot and you're 60 and that girl's 30 and hot. Did any red flags come? I mean, if a really hot girl is hitting on a dentist, she's either drunk or she's stealing from you. I mean, I just don't see dentists attracting. In fact, there was a company, it was so funny, the ADA even got mad at it. It was called, what was the one, what was that dental company out of California what was that one? Oh, it was, anyway, they, oh my gosh, I podcasted both owners. It was, anyway, they started buying impression materials and everything, but they had better marketing. They were all colors and flavors and all these different things, and they were really doing a deal. And their whole hot deal was that during dental seminars, all their booth girls would be scantily clad, really gorgeous girls. And what was the name of that company? And they said, oh my God, these nerdy dentists, they couldn't even resist not going over there and talking to these hot girls. So, you know, when your staff's stealing from you, and you can see others saying maybe they have a gambling problem, a drug problem. That's another one. You're sharing hydrocodone with her. And so then she thinks, well, that'll get your license taken away. So I'll start stealing from you because if you ever find out, I'll just tell the board, well, that I started stealing with him because he got me addicted to Vicodin and I needed more money to pay for it. I mean, so all that stuff. What would be the next? We talked about a pre-approval of transactions, a purchase order. That's what we call them. Of pre-approved purchase orders for anything over $500 in a dental office. Was that a good amount?
Yeah, pretty good rule of thumb.
Okay, give me some more internal controls.
If you don't do the purchase order, if that's too much to do proactively, just reactively, at least monthly, review that spending. And maybe you won't stop it ahead of time, but you can certainly catch it soon after before it's happened month over month over month. The deposits, you brought up a case earlier where somebody's taking those insurance checks or whatnot, maybe setting up a bank account with a similar name, something that can fool the bank and depositing those into a different account. So controlling the cash in is also an important thing. And then again, running things through the payroll system. If you're not watching that, I've seen fake employees set up. I've seen if there's too much control of paying a bonus or a commission, or if there's some incentive structure and taking advantage of that, if it's not being closely monitored, those kind of things happen as well.
Now let's go to the technical, because I mean, you stayed at the end of the day. You're doing everything right. You're supposed to get off a 5. A toothache came in, and you stayed and did the root canal, build up and crown, and instead of leaving a 5, you left a 7. You did everything right, but when they paid on that credit card, the money went straight into her bank account. How does he avoid? Just go a little bit on technical stuff, because then you got data backups. You got the machine. Talk about the technologies of accounting and data and embezzling and all that.
Sure. So one of the best ways to capture those kind of things is to reconcile between your various systems. So your system of collection and your bank actual deposits. You should at some frequency be cross-referencing those, reconciling those with each other. In our platform, depending on the collection system, some of those we do daily, where we're constantly keeping a pulse, and we can alert, hey, there's a missing deposit. Something shows as collected and it never actually hit the bank account it was supposed to get into. So reconciling between the two systems is honestly the best way to do that. If you can't do a full reconciliation between the two, you should understand from a high level your collection percentage. So of how much you're billing, how much you expect to regularly collect, and at least on a monthly basis, be just checking that percentage for a reasonableness test. I did X amount of billings and I collected, Y amount. Are those within the parameters I would expect? And that's not nearly as precise, but at least it's taking into consideration, the general idea.
Okay, and she's going to ask you, do you recommend a national bank or a local bank? I mean, should I use the little private bank in my small town or one of them coast-to-coast banks?
Sure. Yeah, the banks it's tough because some of the large banks seem to be good to work with and some do not. And a lot of times it is based on the relationship you may have in that local branch of the bank. So banking is interesting. So often the financing is part of the banking relationship. So it's hard for us to recommend Chase or Wells Fargo if the community bank down the street gave you a fabulous loan that those big national providers were not offering. So really, I would just say, you want your bank to be professional. There's a level of small community bank where if they let things slide in terms of fraud prevention and controls, I would run immediately, because that means somebody could potentially take advantage of you. As much as it may be convenient for you to not have to do things exactly following the right protocol, it also means you're kind of exposed. But with that, there's fabulous community banks as well as the large national banks. We have a huge concentration with the big banks. I would say 75 to 80% of our clients do their primary banking with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase. With that said, we do see a lot of the community banks, and some of the entrepreneurs just absolutely love them. When their technology is up to par, which it can often be, and they have strong controls, I think a community bank is just great. As we've seen with this PPP situation.
Well, I heard what you said. I heard you say Wells Fargo and Chase, but I haven't heard of Bank of America.
Never heard of them. I think I heard you call them that in the past, and I laughed very loudly.
It's tough because I love Jamie Dimon, because every time he comes to Arizona, he gives each branch a lunch certificate, and my branch knows I'm in love with the guy, so I've got to eat lunch with him 3 times, and he just totally wants to hear what you're doing. And from an accounting, I mean, I got 3 bookkeepers on my internal accounting, and they just love the Chase banking. But Bank of America, their online banking is not nearly like Bank of America, but they're into dentistry. So it's like, okay, so the guy that loves you, they're not very good, and Chase really doesn't have a dental transition practice broker deal. So it's not one of those things. It's black and white. It's very 50 Shades of Gray. But love Chase Online. And so would you recommend, because there's 2 schools of thought on this. Some dentists have the Chase banking online so they can make sure the division of details, whoever made the deposit, he sees that the deposit is made, and he can see that what was checks and what was cash. Other people say, are you out of your mind? I mean, the TikTok is owned by China. They just bought 20% of Reddit. And my girls, I don't know, they think that's a very bad idea. They're like, let's do that from our office, not on your smartphone. Is that paranoia, or is there some truth behind that?
Yeah, we tend to feel that's paranoia at this day and age, that the data's in the cloud. It's kind of whether you're accessing it from a computer or a mobile device. Those financial institutions have a very strong vested interest in creating a safe, secure system, as do even the accounting platforms like QuickBooks, like our platform. But the banks and the financial institutions, absolutely. So I have a high degree of confidence in the mobile apps. They've got a unique set of, security that's needed. And I think they've, at this point, done a nice job at providing that. Now, can you get hacked? Could you get hacked on a local, network in Starbucks easier than in your office? Perhaps. But again, I feel like the safeguards are really strong to where that convenience versus security, I think we've kind of nailed it. And I certainly am not. I'm never hesitant. I don't ever dissuade people from using the mobile apps from a quality financial, provider.
Okay, your website is Ceterus. Where did that name come from?
So it's actually Ceterus, and it's
Ceterus.
You're close, and it's 70% of people pronounce it wrong in some way or another. It's a Latin word, and it stands for the rest or everything else, kind of like etc.
Oh, that's right, etc. Yeah. And the word doctor comes from docere, which means teacher. So a doctor is just a teacher, and cetera is etc. Everything else?
Everything else. So we want you to do business. In this case, you do dentistry. Leave the rest to somebody else. Leave everything else.
Note to self: he has 5 boys and a daughter. Claims he's not Catholic but knows Latin. All right. This story is getting stranger by the minute.
Wrong with Catholics. I just don't happen to be one.
Oh my gosh! So cetera comes from et cetera, abbreviated to etc. Is a Latin expression that is used in English to mean and other similar things and so forth. So now, I let me get your business model right. Now, do my dentists listen to you? Do they go to Ceterus?
There you go. Right? You nailed it, Howard.
Do they go to Cetera.com? Because I was turned on to you by a dental CPA telling me to go to Cetera.com/dental CPA offer. So are you right now trying to reach out to dental CPAs because you want to help them and my homies need a relationship with a CPA that focuses on dentistry? Or can my homies go straight to you?
They can do either. We want them to go. They can come to us, but we certainly have a great number of relationships with the firms that can support those dentists. But at the end of the day, we want to give those CPA firms that focus on dentistry more capacity to handle more of your homies. That's our objective. And it's working so far so good. So if they want to reach out to us, we're happy to steer them in the right direction.
Okay, now look at the difference in what he just said of Facebook. Where come on, the owner of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, his dad Ed is a dentist who's come on this show once a year for 3 years, and I have 300,000 followers on Facebook. But if I posted something smart, I know this is just theoretical, but let's just say I posted something smart, and 6 months later you're like, oh, I need to go back and get that. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to my last Twitter deal and scroll back for 5 years? Whereas Dental Town's a message board, it's a searchable index base. So I would like to get a thread going on this topic of where they can actually get it done. And so for me, it's Open Dental because I can assure you that probably 10,000 dentists switched to Open Dental only because they knew the future was being open format with all these things branching into it. Sure. And if you have one programmer in your family, they can add things to this. I'm not a programmer. I've never written line of code. My boys can, but that's future. But we have an Open Dental accounting because that was the step. It wasn't because Open Dental was just better than Dentrix and all that stuff. It was that it was open. And we have a thread called Open Dental Accounting. Can you go to that thread and post your chart of account and the links to all these dental CPA firms?
We will absolutely do that. And some of the firms kind of look at us as secret sauce and they won't be public, but we will have an ability for you to say, I want to meet a CPA, and we can help introduce you to every one of the firms that's on our platform. So to Jonathan's point, we want to connect you with a great firm, but you're welcome to come to our platform and get there.
Well, just send me the list of the ones that don't want to go public, then I'll out them with fun.
Then you'll out them all. There we go.
It'll just be fun to out all of them.
We trust you will. We trust you will.
So Ceterus.com is an accounting solution built to empower you. Ceterus.com/dental CPA offer is where other dental CPAs should go. And by the way, I have to tell you, I want to get your feedback on this. I'm not really big into the diploma thing because I've seen people get a dental degree and 40 years later have never taken any CE that they weren't mandated to. I mean, I know dentists that get mad that they have to take CE. And it's like, Come on, dude, you're 60 years old. My accounting team are all came from bookkeepers. They were bookkeepers. They've been with me 20 years. They just eat, live, breathe, and die this stuff. Some of the dentists sit there and are confused because they see some people in a small town using a bookkeeper, some using a CPA, and then or an accountant, and then other people say, well, he's an accountant, but he's not a CPA, or now there's CPAs with JD law degrees. I mean, so talk about the spectrum between a bookkeeper and a CPA JD. Where does she need to enter this? And we'll wrap this up because I know you promised me an hour and you got bigger things to do than talk to me.
Yeah,
but where would you enter that?
I would say you want a professional who's specialized in the industry of dentistry, and the expertise and experience can overcome maybe some of the education or the credential. CPA designations is great. When you get into the tax side of things, that's really, really helpful, I think, to have somebody who is a CPA. But I wouldn't go with you could go with somebody who's a bookkeeper, but I would want industry specialization where they work with many, many dental offices and they can speak to what you're doing and compare it to the others that they work with. So to me, it's more about having an expert professional than the exact credentials that come with that. I'll say 80% of the time, I think that is a CPA in our experience, is that those with that industry specialization tend to be a CPA, tend to have the accounting degree in their background, but you can absolutely do that as a bookkeeper. We know many, many, many people that started working with QuickBooks, got really good at it. They're incredibly smart. And what they've learned from the school of experience is right there with, a lot of CPAs as well.
Plus, I'd also say anybody that we would send your people to, in terms of a dental focused CPA firm, they're going to have really smart people that are in that space doing their day-to-day stuff. It's a CPA firm. They're not going to hire dummies. They're going to be dental focused accountants and bookkeepers who know that industry really, really well. For sure.
Okay, so if you're an accountant listening to this, or you're a CPA, but you want to go into, why not go into dentistry? If we've showed you anything during the pandemic, we're an essential worker. But they want to know, what does this cost? I know you're doing a no cost. And by the way, he's not advertising. They didn't know me from Adam. I reached out to them. This is not an ad. But you're saying no cost during COVID. Okay, that's cool. But what is the cost after COVID, or how does this work for a CPA?
Yeah, so in general, the cost is broken down by the complexity of the tasks we automate. But it's essentially it's typically we pretty much double the cost savings for the firm of the time saved. If you're paying somebody $30 or $50 an hour to do these tasks, we tend to do it for half of that cost is kind of the ballpark that we end up at. So for some of this, it kind of depends on what you sign up for, but it's in the low three digits, kind of low hundreds per month per dental office.
And do you have an exit strategy? Or you got venture capital, private equity? Is your exit strategy to do an IPO someday? Because there's a lot of people saying that. There's a lot of private equities saying that that banking got too regulated, the street is too complex, and private equity is just more freedom. So you've raised a lot of venture capital money. Do you say, oh, I would never want to be public and deal with all that crap, we're just going to say PE, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, kind of our goal is to have a really large impact and empower, do the rest for thousands and thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs who shouldn't be spending their time on this stuff. In the case of dental, it's by empowering the CPAs that work with them. So really, it's about having an impact on a very wide national scale, which we're proud that we've done that, but we've got a long, long ways to go. There's 20 million small businesses. There's a couple, 130,000, 150,000 dental offices. We work with a lot, but a very small percentage. So we want to really empower entrepreneurs as our mission, and we want to do it at a very large scale. With that said, we've got investors, we've got VCs, so that could stay private, to your point. If going public is too much of a headache, that could be going public. We really don't have a near-term exit strategy. We're really looking to take that capital, build a phenomenal product, and really, have a really large impact and work with, thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs and help them ultimately run better businesses.
And on that list of CPAs, I will post every podcast on that thread with them. I want to keep this going because I want to help. Old people want to help the newcomers. And my gosh, I mean, anybody who's great in anything, if they had a good memory, could go back to 4, 5, 6, 7. Somebody mentored, somebody complimented them. I only went out for one sport because the coach told me I was really good at it. And I didn't turn out till later that I realized freshman year of high school, I weighed 93 pounds. He had no one at varsity 98 because no one was that small. So he told me he thought I'd be perfect. And I'm like, really? No one's ever, said anything like that to me. So I wrestled through high school just because one guy made one comment. And my gosh, so I want to, you young kids, if you don't get a dental CPA, if you don't know your numbers, oh my God, it's so, once you disconnect from reality, I don't care when I meet you again, you're still disconnected from reality. Once you're disconnected from your math, you have to reconnect, and if you don't ever reconnect, you'll die disconnected. And so any of these dental CPAs, I'll keep posting them on this thread until we get it done. I would love it to, if you have any contacts at Quicken or Intuit on QuickBooks Pro, if there's someone who's in charge of just dental, I don't even know if they have a dental division, but if there's anybody from Intuit, or even, anything from those guys that are focused on dental, do you think they have someone at Intuit that's just focused on dental?
They've got some great contacts. I don't believe they have a dental focus, but we can certainly connect you with somebody with some really good people that could speak to small business entrepreneurs, including dentists, from Intuit. So,
and I've had Tim Lott and several of these dental CPAs on over the years, but I should bring Lott back. I mean, that was 4 years ago. I think a lot of half the dentists have been divorced since then. So there's lots of change. But hey, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was just an honor to podcast you on this. Was there anything that I didn't ask you or you'd like to say or we didn't cover? Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, I think we're good. Just go to Ceterus.com and let us help you out.
All right, go to Ceterus.com or Ceterus.com/dental CPAs.
The latter, but either way, we'll get it.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was just an honor to podcast you.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.